Welcome back to the Altars and Ashes podcast. I'm B.D. Fleming.
I'm Austin Tucker.
And I'm Robbie Stringer.
And today we're going to talk about culture in strongholds. Every civilization and every community has a culture. And so the question that we want to consider in this episode is that culture formed intentionally? And so we've been told for decades that diversity is inherently a strength and that the healthiest societies are the ones that are capable of accommodating as many different values, assumptions, lifestyles, and visions of the good as possible. But eventually those differences touch something that actually matters. Like, how should your children be raised? What is marriage? What does authority mean? What is worship for? What is, what educational system do you want your children taught in? What constitutes honest work? And so at some point, somebody's vision has to win. Mm-hmm. And Christian boroughs cannot simply be groups of Christians who happen to live near one another. They have to become a people that have shared loves and shared habits and shared expectations, and then a shared understanding of what life under Christ should actually look like. And so with that in mind, today we're going to be talking about chapter 11 of Strongholds of the Kingdom, which I intentionally titled Monoculture Is the Future. And so here's how I frame the chapter. Shared conviction gives a community direction, while shared culture gives it endurance. Yeah. And without both, you can't keep a borough together for very long. Gentlemen, we're in a different spot today.
On my front porch.
On your front porch.
Isn't this your mom's front porch?
No, this is the
we're in the
basement
of your
of my mom's
front
porch.
Let's move on.
Yeah. So first week back to school. You guys feeling all right?
It's been good. I've enjoyed myself sitting in my office.
He hadn't done anything.
You don't do anything.
Yeah, how's your week been?
Sitting in my office and I've been a bunch of teachers who haven't touched their laptops all summer.
Come to you for tech support
anymore. Yeah. I've been doing tech support.
I hate that printer.
Yeah,
I do hate that printer. I think I hate all printers though.
Yeah, I think it's more of an operator error than it is the printer error. Yeah,
maybe.
Do you want to name anybody specifically since you're basically saying they're terrible?
I haven't asked you help on printers all week. I just want to say that.
That's because you come in through the school year,
through
the summer. Mm-hmm. A lot of these teachers hadn't been printing
for 2 months or whatever.
Yeah, for 2 months, and some of the older ladies, it's like it's not working. And then you get in there, and you ever notice like you print something, and your print queue will have 20 things.
Yes,
because you didn't clear it.
Right. And
so that's what I'm like. Oh, let's just restart your computer. Right. Let's clear this,
and then everything comes out.
And then everything works. And that's another thing. Walking into the secretary office where our main printer is, and literally being 500 pages of just random busy work, because that first week of school, they're doing all those questionnaires, what was your summer like, coloring pages. Mm-hmm. You keep them busy that first week while you're organizing.
So you're doing coloring pages in high school?
No, I don't care what their summer was like. Yeah. I'm like, hey, playtime is over. It's back to work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Elementary prints probably 100 times more than junior high and high school.
Yeah.
It's because coloring pages and all that.
Do your kids have laptops and stuff, or is it?
To some degree, but we're doing stuff on the computer less this year.
Right. Okay.
So not as much.
Okay. We are moving back to pen and paper, more and more.
More and more. Yep.
More and more.
What's that?
What's pen and paper? Yeah. The thing is this online education, computer education was great until the advent of AI. Mm. Now it's pointless.
Yeah, it helps everybody cheat better.
It's a pointless thing, and I want to raise kids who are literate.
Mm-hmm. I want to raise kids who have to use some creativity to cheat.
Yes,
that's what I want. Back in my day, yeah.
Well, I was saying that to one of the teachers, like, well, they'll still find a way to cheat. I was like, probably, yes, true, but at least they have to earn it by handwriting it all.
Yeah.
They don't just copy and paste it.
Or they had to look over somebody's shoulder.
Yeah, they actually have to earn it.
I am a fairly pro-AI person, but I am worried that many people will never have a single thought ever again.
Yeah.
Because it'll do all its stuff.
It's forever changing academia. Because, you think, when you were doing your master's, there was no AI. When you
no. If there was, it was something like that companies were building out. Yeah.
It was
I remember when they started with those big, like the supercomputers. That was,
yes.
And it was like these big old things that were bigger than a house.
Check this out. Next time you get a chance, ask ChatGPT what's more powerful, your iPhone 17 or the supercomputer of 1998. If you remember, 1998 was the year they talked about that big supercomputer, and it was all. I remember being in school because I was like a junior in high school, and I was like, man, I would love to get hold of it. Our iPhone 17s have like 100 times more power than the supercomputers of 98.
Remember when all those computers shut down during Y2K and
man.
And all of society collapsed?
Where were you in Y2K?
I was at church. I was at a watch night service.
Were you?
I think we've actually talked.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
This is a great segue, I think, into monoculture.
Monoculture.
Okay.
So this one could be an interesting podcast. The chapter was named what it was named on purpose, a little bit to get a rise, But yes, I know.
You do something just to get it.
I would never do that.
Says the guy with the fake name.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for calling me out here.
Yeah.
All right. So I thought I need to go ahead and define what monoculture is, what I mean by it, because if I don't, Robbie's going to say, can you define that? Yeah. So when I say monoculture, I don't mean that everyone looks alike or thinks alike about everything. I mean that they have shared morals and that they agree on what is good and what is evil and what we are building towards and what we will not permit in a Christian community. So we're not talking sameness of personality or ethnicity or vocation or gifting. We're talking about unity of direction.
And that's every time somebody talks about monoculture, racism is the first thing that's thrown at them.
And it's the first thing that I put in there is like, you're going to have pushback when you say this. The first thing they're going to say is,
you're racist.
You're racist.
You're racist. And that's the thing.
And of course, we're not talking about race at all.
No.
Race is not, that's skin color. Generally when people say race, they're talking about skin color, right? So you can have a monoculture with people that have different skin colors. Blows your mind, huh? Like you can actually do that. And so what we mean is we're talking about unity of direction. So here's what I put. I put shared doctrine alone does not constitute a culture. Okay. And that's going to be something I know you want to touch on.
Well, but it does include that, right?
Oh, for sure. You've got to have shared beliefs.
So I think that's just something that should be said as the foundation before you say any more.
Very good. Very good. So you do need to have the same beliefs. Right.
And enough of the same doctrine. Like we've talked about the three tiers. What do we call the triage?
Theological triage. First level, second level.
And so we've said that there's certain things that just mean you're not a Christian.
Right. If you don't believe in first level doctrines.
Right. If you deny the Trinity, if you deny the authority, I'd say the authority of Scripture?
Yeah,
100% would be a part of that as well. And if you deny the essence of the gospel, like you can't let people like that into
salvation
your church,
by faith alone.
Into your community of churches, your borough.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some second order stuff that we might say, hey, you're a believer, we love you, but you're not going to fit in our church.
Yeah.
And that means you're not going to fit in our church community, our borough too.
Right.
So you have to have that stuff.
Correct.
But what you want to say is that there's more to it than just that.
Yeah. So monoculture is what happens ultimately when shared convictions are embodied in the ordinary daily life. And so how we worship, how we marry, how we raise our children, how we educate, how we work, how we celebrate, discipline, steward property, settle disputes, and define what is honorable or shameful. So let me give you some examples of what I mean, okay? Maybe this will clarify it. So when I say shared beliefs are not enough, what I mean to say very clearly is that, so you can have two Christians, right? That believe the same thing theologically, okay? And I'm going to get pushback on this. I know I will because I've gotten it from some people that I really respect. But you can have two people who have the same beliefs theologically, but if they are culturally very different, they will not make good neighbors. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have one Christian from one country and another Christian from another country. They both believe salvation by faith alone, the gospel, they can name it. They both believe it. But one thinks it's okay to leave all their trash out in the yard. And they also believe it's okay to eat birds. or dogs
I
or whatever.
love chicken.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You know what I mean.
Okay,
Like
okay.
you saw the memes of people catching birds and like eating them and stuff like that. So it's okay to leave their trash outside. Park 37 cars in their yard or whatever. And so then you're going to have neighborly disputes because culturally you're not the same. And this is a very small micro example, but I'm just saying, like, you got two neighbors, they're both Christians, but they have different beliefs about what is good, what is right, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable.
Could I put it in another phrase?
Sure.
We have an agreement on the outcome of the transcendentals. What is good, what is beautiful,
right.
What's true.
Right.
Now, true, we agree on.
Right.
Beauty, we might not agree on. And good, we might agree mostly, but like, for instance, Western culture says, hey, out of respect for you, when I say I'm going to be here at 12, I'm going to be here at 12.
Yep. And
I'm not attacking other cultures, but there are other cultures who it's like, that's just not human. This would be ridiculous. We'll start when everybody gets here. Why are you rushing? Where Western culture prizes time, not every culture does prize time.
Okay, yeah. Here's another one. So let's say you got a Japanese Christian and an American Christian, let's say. Well, Japan, as I understand it, very much values their elderly people, right? Like, they're honored. Whereas in the Western world, we honor youth.
You're right.
And so let's say you have a Western Christian that goes over to Japan and is making fun of all the old people in Japan. Well, yeah, they could both be Christian. Now, hopefully a Christian wouldn't be doing that, making fun of them, right? But I'm just saying, or maybe they didn't respect them, or maybe they didn't give deference to them, whatever it is. Well, you're going to have a problem with the Japanese Christian because...
Well, in Japanese culture, a part of their culture is, like, for instance, if we were all three to go out to drink, he who has the highest profession or highest job drinks first. He does not pour his own drink. There's an order of respect in that culture that would not be in a Western culture. That would probably be a hiccup. And if you were a missionary to Japan, you would need to know the politeness of that culture in order to coexist with them.
Sure.
And I would say there's a politeness and Western culture that you need to know in order to...
That's a great example. So we're in Central Florida, and you have a lot of Southerners, and you also have a lot of Northerners, right? And so you can see sometimes like cultural clashes.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, this isn't even necessarily nationality.
That's what I'm saying, but it's going to be the first thing that people throw out.
Nationality can affect this, but
Right.
it's not necessarily
Correct.
Nationality.
Correct.
Because, like you're saying, different regions of the country,
Correct.
North and South can be different on certain things. The more I kind of like experience things, the more I realize it's not just North and South, it's also rural and like city.
Sure.
So you can be from Tampa and from Summerfield and have some very different perspectives on things, and you're both like white Americans,
right?
Right. So there's a lot of this, even when you don't bring nationality into it.
That's
politeness.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm from Ohio as a kid until I was 12. In Ohio, all my friends' parents were called by their first name. And if you say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, it's like, how dare you? I'm not an old person. And so you don't say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I moved down to Florida, my 8th grade year, the teacher asked me to do something. I said, yeah. She goes, yeah? I go, what? She goes, you mean yes, ma'am? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. We don't do that where I'm from. Y'all don't have morals up north? You don't have politeness? It's like, no, we do. It's just...
Coming from Indiana, I had that exact same experience. Because I came down here when I was 11, and the first time I said I think I just said yes to a lady in our church, she just gives me the coldest stare and says, you mean yes, ma'am? I'm like, yes.
That's exactly
what I
meant.
mean. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so so we acknowledge these things exist. We understand they can be related to ethnicity or nationality, but not necessarily.
They can, but that doesn't mean that
Yeah. So what is the exact point, though? Are you saying that
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked.
In a borough, because I want to ask you,
flesh it out.
Are you saying that people would, because you can't be completely the same, right? Like, people, if you expect exact sameness, and I think you already basically said you're not expecting exact sameness, but then the only person you can have a community with is yourself.
Well,
That's the best community to me.
So I agree.
Let's put it in terms of houses. In my house, we have 3 kids, well, 2 young adults, a kid, my wife and I. We have rules in our house. We have a culture in my house.
Yeah.
We have expectations in our house. And without those expectations, without that culture, we cannot run a house of unity.
Mm-hmm.
And not all these things are necessarily sin, but they're a part of our culture that makes our house thrive.
Yep.
And a successful church cannot be so diverse that it does not have a culture. I mean, you can have diverseness. You can have all different kind of ethnicities, but you cannot have diverseness of culture if you're going to have a successful church. It just doesn't work.
Well, and that extends to the borough as well. Were you done with your thought? I want you to be able to flesh it out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said every community has things that it praises, that it tolerates, that it corrects, and that it refuses. So, like, for instance, you guys both said the yes ma'am thing. You were corrected.
Yes.
Right. If you had one of your kids' friends over and they walk in and they're F this, blah, 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 you're going to correct them and you're going to say, that's not how this happens in our house.
Yep.
But it could be that their dad, who's a Christian, grew up in the military and it's just part of his, and he's still working through it or whatever. But like in their house, it's normal, conversation. And so like, you're basically saying, look, that's not the way we do it here. And it's the same thing in a borough. And you're basically saying, no. Okay. Here's an example. Let's say we're building this borough and we've got a guy who is a mechanic. Let's say he's a mechanic, right?
Yeah.
And, we start referring people to him and he does a really like shade tree job and does crap work or charging more or something like that. Then we're going to go to that person in the borough and the mechanic and say, look, bud, that's not how we operate in this borough. We're going to take care of each other. We're not asking you to do a great job and not get paid. We want you to make a fair living. We want you to make a profit, but you're also going to do good work because that's the standard that we have in this borough.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to allow you to manipulate or to take advantage of our people so that you can profit off of them by doing crummy work. Like, that's not how we do it. We refuse that.
Do you think too, it's like, if you do that though, there is 2 possible reactions. Someone could say, okay, I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work on adjusting.
Correct.
Other people might say, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
In which case you're saying,
that's fine.
God bless you, but you're
not going to thrive here.
Right.
You're not going to thrive here.
Because I think that's like here I am the one making it political, but like I think that's like when you talk about immigration to a country, there are those who say I'm in a new country that's different, but I'm going to adjust, and I'm going to learn and I'm going to understand, and an immigrant like that is able to, I think, eventually thrive in a nation where they come with that attitude where they're going to adjust. When they say, no, I refuse. I'm not going to assimilate. I'm not going to understand. I'm going to, I guess, consider my society superior and therefore refuse to adjust. That's when you start creating the problems. Yep. Now, some of the problem, though, that does become, just to make things complicated, right? So you gave those Japanese examples, I think, are very good. So, for instance, Austin, you mentioned the order that people would drink. Is that what you said?
Yep.
That's not a moral issue.
Correct.
That's just a cultural issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
but it's one if you don't follow, you greatly disrespect.
So if you move to if an American moves to Japan, they should figure that out.
They should honor that custom. Yeah.
If a Japanese person moves to America, they should not try to insist that everybody does that.
Amen.
Right?
Yep.
1,000%.
Okay. But the other example you gave about honoring the elderly, I actually think that is a cultural weakness in the United States.
That we
worship youth.
Yeah, I agree.
And we don't, and that is a way where you can come in contact with a Japanese person, whether it's in Japan or it's in the United States, and you can say, maybe I'm wrong about that.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe I can actually learn something from your society and be better on that.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've done that when I lived in Chicago. I met lots of foreigners, and most of the time when I saw cultural differences, I preferred my own culture's way of doing things. But I have to admit, I was really challenged by the Ethiopian church that I helped minister with, because I saw how community-oriented they were.
They were family-oriented, right? Yeah.
Community and family-oriented. They, at our church, Austin, you have to say every week, I'm putting a timer. I want everybody to stay for 2 minutes and talk to each other.
You wouldn't have to do that.
You'd have to set a 2-hour timer and say, all right, everybody needs to leave. You can't be here for hours upon hours upon hours. And at first I found that annoying.
Yeah.
Because I was working with their kids and I felt like I kind of had to stay for a while and watch their kids.
Yeah.
And eventually I'm just like, I gotta go home.
But that's a perfect example though.
Yeah.
The Ethiopian church existed because they had a monoculture in which they could thrive.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
They could thrive because they weren't offended by everybody staying there for hours.
Yep.
They expected to just go to each other's houses because you just do that in that culture.
Yep.
And that's the thing. It's like every time Paul speaks to the church, Romans chapter 12, 1 Corinthians 12, you have it pictured as a body. A body does not style itself one way on one leg and another way on another leg.
Yeah.
And a burrow should be made up of a bunch of bodies who hang out together.
Right.
And so there has to be a monoculture.
Yeah. I'll also say the Ethiopians also had a particular view on time that I also did not share and did not want to
adopt
change.
that.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't want to
Right.
adopt that.
There was no absolute time for anything.
And that's why like it can be hard when talking about.
And there's a lot of cultures like that, actually.
Yeah. And there's like, I really enjoyed going to a church with a lot of different cultures, and did it sometimes create issues? I once unexpectedly got kissed on the cheek by an elderly Romanian man. That I was not. Yeah,
he didn't expect to like it that much.
Yeah. I kissed a man and I liked it. All right.
A man kissed me. You're making him blush.
But why? So it does create that. But it also, man, some of those Romanians, man, they also, like, some of those older ones, they had stories of being in communist Romania.
Yeah.
And many of them went to jail. They had to. Some of them even like got out of the country. They snuck out of the country. And so I like some of that stuff. I really I appreciate.
Yeah.
They understood a boldness of faith that I just could not understand.
To go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, so my point in this chapter really is very simple. I had to caveat a lot because I knew what would be said, but you can affirm the same confession, right? You can go to the same church, you can believe the same gospel, and still have radically different assumptions about life. So, for instance, how do you discipline your kids, right? That's different widely by home, right? How about what type of education or how much debt you should take on, or whether you should have debt, or whether you should be an employee or an employer? Like you were talking about, you grew up in a very, entrepreneurial family. Like, so there's these things that we recognize inherently from household to household, but as soon as you add it to a bigger group, then it becomes, for some reason, oh, you mean race. And it's like, no, not at all. In fact, I'm just going to use this example. We have had, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but we had over 30,000 views on one post last week on our social media.
I did not.
30,000?
33,000 is where it's at right now. Okay.
Wow.
All because a Brazilian family found our church and visited, and she made a post. And we found out that there are thousands of Brazilians right here in Marion County who are looking for this type of church, who is confessional, reformed, household oriented, and they don't have anything like that. So they're going to these Brazilian churches where they can hear their language spoken, but they don't agree on the same on the confessions. And so for them, it's more important to go and find a church that is confessionally like them than it is to find a church that speaks the same language.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's where, inevitably, if the Lord wills it, we might end up with some Brazilians at our church. And praise God, right? Like, nobody's saying, oh, to come to our church, you can't. I mean, we have multiple ethnicities at our church.
Yeah. And if we're talking about ethnicities, there are parts in almost every ethnic culture that I have problems with.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
The
You're
whole
saying including
Swiftie,
America by saying Taylor Swift, right? Is what
the
you're saying?
white
ethnicity would be,
Yeah.
white.
Taylor Swift is popular by white middle-class teenage girls who are mostly liberal.
Who might be the worst class.
Oh,
White liberals,
white middle
women,
class,
white liberal women,
not just women, but just white liberals in general.
Oh, okay.
I
had to make sure. I was like,
in many ways, we share less in common with them.
Yes,
than we do the
Ethiopians. That's exactly the point. That's perfect example. I would rather live next to a whatever ethnicity than I would a white Karen liberal.
Oh
right?
yeah, 100%.
So what you're acknowledging there is that the value system is more important than the ethnicity. And so I don't know. It's just an interesting conversation, and I've seen some people say like, let me ask you this. So this is one I heard. Would you rather? And this is where it can get into the ethnicity part. Would you rather live next to a Nigerian Christian, or as you said, Ethiopian?
I said Ethiopian.
Sorry,
I'm sure there's ones in Nigeria.
Right. Who you believe the same thing, but you don't share the same general values, or not values, standards. Let's say standards, like cultural standards, like they, everything is
their food's strange.
Correct. Or a white, non-Christian, atheist family of 4 or whatever. And so like people have brought that up, and I'm going, I don't know that that's the argument that has to be discussed, because ultimately what we're saying is if you have the same shared values and the same customs, you can build on that. You don't have to have the same color. You just need the same cultural standards.
I think a question like
standards is kind of where I keep going back to standards right now, because what I'm thinking is like you could when I say values, that's really vague, and it might mean that
like for a church to like if Grace Point is going to build institutes,
yes,
we have to have shared values on something like education,
right?
In order to build that institute. We need shared values on business administration.
But you also need shared standards. And this is what I'm getting at. So let's say you're building it and everybody agrees you ought to have a Christian school.
Yeah.
Okay. But what if you're saying we want that Christian school to be top notch? We want to bring in the best teachers because we want to make sure we're doing the best education possible. And you've got somebody else who's like, well, as long as we're teaching them about God, it's fine. Well, you've got 2 people who believe they have the same values, but they don't have the same standards.
Or are you saying like different vision?
Vision is part of it. I mean, I'm saying they both had a vision for a Christian school.
That's a person with lower standards. Here's a more like, I don't know if controversial, a harder one, right? Because I'm for high standards. It just saying let's not care about the actual educational quality. That is unequivocally bad in my opinion, right?
You're a teacher also.
But imagine if somebody said, we're going to have a high-class school that only the top-notch type students can thrive in.
Okay.
Well, another person might say, let's have a school that serves lower-income families.
Bingo, yeah.
Where maybe many of them are not going to reach that high standard, but they're going to reach a higher potential than they ever would have before.
Right.
That's 2 different positive visions.
Correct.
But you can't do both in the same school.
Bingo. And so they share the same vision. They share the same goal.
Good visions.
Right. Good vision. They have the same values.
Yeah.
We want to have Christian education, but they don't share the same standard. How do you build with that difference? That's what I'm getting at.
You have to pick one or the other.
Right.
Yeah. And that's identity.
And hopefully there's whichever one you don't choose. Hopefully there's another one on the other side of town.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why we talked last week about the Alfred strategy, because what we're saying is there needs to be multiple boroughs who, let's say you've got that family who can't fit into your school, but they could definitely fit into the one down the road in the other borough or whatever, and they refer somebody over to you.
Well,
so
it's kind of like when Grace Point Academy started, we aimed at the socioeconomics of this area, which is very poor. And we've since raised up, but I think the only reason we've been able to slowly raise the education is because we started with the foundation and built these kids up.
Yeah.
With that being said, there's a great school in Ocala that's going to be starting here this next year, starting Classic Out the Door. If we had started Classic Out the Door, we would probably be at 40, 50 kids right now. We wouldn't be as large as we are because there's not the population to support that school here.
Maybe.
Now, I think that population's coming.
Right. Well, I'm just thinking so for instance, you think about Doug Wilson's, what was the original? Logos. Right. So they started out the door that way. And of course they kind of set the standard for classical Christian education. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like that vision that they had wouldn't have matched another borough down the road.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree.
And so all I'm getting at is, in order to build a borough that is thriving and growing and fulfilling the need for that burrow, you got to have more than just the same belief in Christ. Now, to be clear, we're not saying to be saved, that's what you need, right? You need the one gospel to be saved. But what we're saying is, in order to build institutions and structures and systems, you need more than just the shared belief.
Yeah.
You need shared standards, vision, goals, customs, all those things that we've talked about. You need to believe the same thing about hospitality. Like, for instance, that's a big one. A lot of Christians don't want anybody in their home.
Yeah.
Some Christians want to be hospitable with their home.
Some people want everybody in their home, but shouldn't have them in their home.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
We've seen that.
So again, there's multiple things like entertainment, levels of modesty. That's a big one, right? Like if you have a shared, for instance, you know this at the school, you have a certain code, and people always push that code, and you've had to push people out because they didn't meet that code. And what you were saying is, we don't think that you don't believe in Jesus Christ. We think that you don't share the same customs and standards that we do for modesty in our school.
Yeah. Well, we've had people who've tried to push a holier standard than the scripture, a legalistic type code.
Right.
And we've kind of had to push back against that.
Right,
It's
right.
like, you can dress that way. You're not offending our code, but it's going to be within our code.
Right.
So,
But you have a code.
we have a code. Yeah.
And so what you're saying, though, is this is what we're about.
Yep.
And if you don't fit that, we're not saying that you're a terrible person. You're just not going to go to our school.
And here's the thing. I love them.
Yeah.
I've even given kids recommendations and called other principals and been like, this is a good family. But there are some families, and it's like, you need to go down the road. You don't fit our culture. And whether we like it or not, a healthy church is going to have some of that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Even within the church, you might have the same. You could affirm the same doctrine. Here's one, Austin, that you'll totally get. 1689. What do you think of? What kind of man do you think of when you hear somebody that's 1689er? What are they wearing? Tell me what they're wearing.
Suit, tie,
Okay.
Beard.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But they're suited up and they're kind of closed off generally.
Yeah.
We're 1689. We're not
like that at all.
So the point is, like, we have different, but you wouldn't feel comfortable in their church and they wouldn't feel comfortable in your church, even though doctrinally you believe the same exact things.
And we've had some great brothers look for 1689 church, come to our church and go, well, I prefer old hymns, psalmody.
Right.
And I'm like, that's awesome. Hey,
here's the church to go to down
Brother
the road.
Mike down the road.
Yeah.
He's been pastor 38 years. They're 1689 church and they're that personality.
Yeah.
And we've sent people to him. And Mike is actually,
that's it.
Mike has sent people to us who've come to his church and they're like, we're 1689, but we want all, we have a lot of children, a lot of activities. Yeah. Are there any like real family and Mike has sent people to us saying, hey, they've got kids coming out their nose, that culture, they have that family culture there. And so we've sent people to him. He sent people to us and he's very much 15 minutes from us. He's a good church.
So do you see what I'm saying now about like the personality? I think is a great way to look at it. Every borough is going to have its own personality.
Yeah.
And you've got to be okay with having those standards and potentially having to say, you're a great person. We love you. We'll pray for you. We'll even help you get your place, but it's just not going to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. You have to be unified enough.
Right.
But I also do think like one of the things in the chapter is really pushing back on the idea that diversity is strength, or that diversity is strength. And the thing is that I would take a very nuanced view to that.
Okay.
Because I do think that too much diversity can be a weakness. Let me go ahead and say it again. I'm not talking about skin color. I'm not talking, but if you're going too many different directions, it can be a problem. But there is a sense with a certain amount of diversity can challenge assumptions, can challenge weaknesses.
Sure.
And so I do think there has to be a certain amount of openness to people who are a little bit different.
So,
because I think that can be value to a group. Because like Austin, we were talking a couple weeks ago about how colleges, a lot of times, like good colleges don't just bring up their own people, but they bring in people that have graduated from other colleges. Why is it that colleges are like that? Well, because if it's only the same people, you have blind spots and you have weaknesses that you don't know. You need someone from the outside that's been raised with and grown in it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
to bring in something different.
I don't know if that's always true, though.
And so, here's what I would say: diversity in background is not the same as diversity or as the monoculture. So you could have, like, for instance, in the youth group that my wife grew up in Ohio, it was a strong youth group. They had preps. I mean, we're talking 90s kids. So it was preps, goths, the athletic kids, the jocks. And at that youth group, they were all best friends because they had Christ in common. But that youth group also had a culture. Like my youth pastor, my wife's youth pastor, my uncle Doug Krause, it was like, this is your church. We serve in ministry. This is your pastor. We honor our pastors. This is our church. We're going to teach you. You got your first job. That's great. Let's learn to offer and honor God by giving. Hey, and he built a culture. So they had one culture, but they had a diversity of kids. Okay. So I don't think we got to be careful, because I agree, like, having, if we get those Brazilians, praise God for them. But I think their culture would be our culture, because they want confessional.
Correct.
They want, so when we talk about monoculture, the personality of Grace Point, we want to be confessional institution, a family who's actually building out family economics, prizing manhood, catechizing our kids. We want a culture. So whether they're Brazilian, Spanish, we want to build a culture where all the men agree we should be catechizing our kids at the dinner table together.
No, that's all true, of course. But part of the whole point of this is that there's more to it than that.
There's a lot of cultures individually, but one monoculture as a society.
But I assume anyone who came to Grace Point that would say, "Hey, I identify. I am unified enough with these brothers that I can be here and thrive here and add something to here." And if they're not that way, then they're going to commit to
being that.
So that leads into the third segment, which is culture is caught more than it's taught. And so what you're kind of saying is they come with a vision and they end up staying, and they kind of learn through the catechesis or through the the formation that happens there. But I want to go back to your statement about the colleges, because I was thinking about it, and a little bit of what I'm thinking. You think about like a Harvard or a Yale or somewhere like that. A lot of the people, and this has changed recently, but historically, you had Yalers, right? And like I'm thinking about, what's that show that the ladies always watch?
Gilmore
Girls, right? Like there was such the debate about she was going to go to Yale or Harvard instead of Yale or whatever, and the whole point was they always brought the next generation up. And I think you're right that like the outside people coming in can help, but also it dilutes to some extent the shared vision that is there, and the shared history and heritage.
America was always diverse, but the monoculture is what made it great.
Right.
So like when my grandpa, when he came over from Germany after World War II, he openly said, I learned to speak English without a German accent, and I wanted to be an American. He said, I'm still German, but I'm an American first. And he
wasn't a German American.
He wasn't a German American.
Right,
he was an American who happened to like German cuisine.
You know a great contrast though is my grandparents had a German neighbor. And he had a thick German accent and insisted that Germany was way better than the United States.
Yeah, I always wonder then, like, why are you here then?
Yeah, I know, but no, I think you're right. But that is a good example of the two different attitudes.
Yes, I agree.
You can have in a 100%. Scenario like that.
So let's talk about culture being taught, caught instead of taught. Like how does a borough shape a culture, and how do they continue forming? Obviously you want to teach the people that are in it. And that's what you guys are doing. We were talking about before the podcast even started about like the members who are there now who were part of the school.
Yeah.
And so you were teaching them the culture. But so that's important. It's important to teach the culture, but it's also important to cast that vision so wide and so often that people are getting it and catching it. And
the perfect example of the cult culture is when our men gather around with cigars, or we just went on that scalloping trip together.
You mean the rain trip?
The rain trip. That
There was no
it was a fun
scalloping.
trip.
Yeah.
Well, they scalloped without us.
Maybe.
A little bit.
I didn't get any of the scallops.
We
so I don't
didn't
believe
get the
it.
scallops.
Yeah.
But
Well, did you help get the scallop?
No, not at all.
Okay,
not at all.
then you don't get the
Yeah, yeah.
scallop.
Him-
Well, listen,
him-
we were
him,
on
I
a boat with a guy that has been struck by lightning. So out of respect for him and the
Sure,
fact
that's
that
what
I
it was.
soaked. Yeah.
dude,
came back.
we were being pegged. But nonetheless,
Men get around cigars. What were you saying?
we well, it's like we start talking about, if you talk to our men, it's like, I want to do better on catechizing my kids, or I wish I would have catechized my kids when they
Right.
were younger and they're older.
Right.
There's a culture that is caught simply by us being around each other and admiring what is good about our culture and what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a vision that we want men leading the church. I mean, a lot of churches say that, but how often do men actually stand up and do it? We have an unusual blessing at Grace Point to have as many male leaders as we have.
Well, and the thing here, a good example of this is because I don't smoke cigars.
Yes.
So I am an
Yet.
outsider.
We're working on them. We're working on
I'm
them.
an outsider.
I've got
But-
what's
A
this?
flavored stick.
The Tatiana. This is for men who aren't quite men enough to smoke cigar. This would be perfect for you because it's blueberry flavored.
No, but here's the real deal. Robbie
sorry.
just doesn't. If we're doing it, he's gonna not do it. It's just like the whole
Just to
beard
do it,
thing.
yeah.
Like, he's like, I'm not gonna have a beard. I'm not gonna smoke
But
a
I've
cigar.
never had a beard.
I know,
like
I'm just
the but like
You know what?
I-
I didn't have a beard either when I was 12. Anyways, go ahead.
you didn't have a beard when you were like 20.
No, I didn't. I grew a beard at 30.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
And like when you did shave your beard off like a year or
couple
two ago,
years. Yeah.
I had
I
to
didn't like
warn
it.
I
I
had to
didn't
I
like
had to warn people. Be like, you're gonna go see Austin. I just want to warn you. His beard is gone. Might be a little shocking,
Mhm.
but it's okay. And I had at least one person say thank you for the
Did
warning.
you
They would've been,
actually
like,
warn
staring.
people about?
Well, okay, that only happened one time, but it did happen. It did happen. But what I was going to say is we had an activity where everybody went to a cigar shop,
Yeah.
and hung around and talked. And like my first thought was, I don't know if I'm going to go to that. I don't
Yeah.
smoke cigars,
Right.
Right. But I'm like, you know what? I can sit around, and I can still be around everybody,
Yeah.
be around the men of our church.
Yeah.
And I went, and we ended up talking about politics or history the whole
History.
time.
Yeah.
And so it turned out to be actually something, which is something I'm very interested
Yeah.
in, and it actually turned out to be something that I actually could.
And we did sit
participate in.
outside for you.
Huh?
We did sit outside for
Were
you.
you going to sit in?
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Air conditioning. Shoot, yeah.
Yeah.
But
we had
I don't know.
you,
I'd
we
rather
had one
choke
other
and be in the air
brother.
conditioning.
okay. Next time.
Yeah.
Next time.
But
You would have gotten nicotine high inside.
You would have. Yeah.
You would have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially at that spot.
Yeah, that place don't have good. Yeah.
Okay. So, some of the things that I'm thinking about is family worship. Like we have a bulletin every week for Sunday service, and we have a family worship guide in it. And we spend quite a bit of time going through and thinking of questions based on the sermon, and then we have the catechism, and we kind of go through that. We talk about what's permitted in the church, what's not. We have we've created ministries to help like welcome guests and stuff like that. Like we want to create a culture that shows that we care about the things that we espouse. And so we say them often. How many times do you think you've said, we love kids?
Oh, goodness.
A million times.
Yeah.
And so the point is you are again and again and again putting that in the minds of the people. We want them in here.
Yep.
If they want to go to church, like we're not.
Well, you got the mom, and we have the integrated service, the first, and they've never been to a church with integrated service. And Johnny starts acting like Johnny. I don't want that mom going, oh gosh, everybody's going to judge me.
Stare at me. And,
Everybody. It's like, listen, mom, do your best. We love them.
Yeah, because ultimately what we're saying, though, is we want them in here because we want to train them how to sit under, a Sunday worship service.
I feel bad. I've been going around telling everybody I hate kids. I
That's
guess
why you became a teacher.
Yeah.
It was just to punish him.
That's a joke. But there's a
It's
lot
a joke
of,
that he's a teacher.
There are people who go into like working with kids or teenagers that really don't like them. I don't understand why people do it, but there is a segment of people who do that.
I love having kids around, man.
Oh, I love having kids in our church. I love being around teenagers. But part of that's gifting.
Yeah.
Like
I could never pastor a church where I didn't have to patch holes in the walls. I love the fact and that's the thing is I much rather have to teach them than not have them busting holes in my walls. I mean, that sounds weird. You have kids, they're going to act foolish. You got to train them out of it.
Children should be neither seen nor heard.
That
needs to be the
that's
clip
the blues,
right there.
right?
That's the clip.
Yeah. I will say, my dad used to
man.
always say, "Children are to be seen, not heard." But when I heard that one, I was like, I think that's what they really meant. They're to be neither seen nor heard. All right, Austin, jump down to segment 5 for us. And talk about what we are actually trying to build. I'm going to allow you to talk about this the most because, you're sort of as the preaching pastor, you're the one that's usually out front, like casting that vision. So
you've been here much longer.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So what is the culture that Grace Point is trying to build? And I put some stuff there just to talk through, but
well, we
keep in mind we've already mentioned cigars.
Yes.
Well, you can't really mention that enough.
Bourbon.
Yep.
That's actually more your thing.
I'm
more of the Guinness guy, but
also Robbie doesn't have any of that either.
Robbie's the grape juice guy.
Yeah.
He's the grape juice guy.
Grape juice is pretty good.
It is.
I'm not gonna lie.
He loves communion.
He likes his grape juice.
Yeah, he loves communion.
But so that whole culture of moving from theory to being biblical, like even when we went from Welch's grape juice to actual wine and the Lord's Supper,
we lost some people. But I want a culture that says, you know what? This might rub against what I feel, but this is what the Bible teaches. And being faithful to that. We want reverent worship that's actually biblical. And God says it's not man's.
And in that case, we didn't even get rid of the grape juice. We just added the wine too.
Yeah.
And so to be upset about that enough to where you would leave means that you're very opposed to some of the views of our
and
church,
the elders.
And they should leave. Ultimately, if that is something that they can't agree with and go forward, they should find.
And we left the
and
grape
you don't say
juice.
that in a mean way. Like they should find someone that shares their same vision.
It's just like we talked about with the borough. Like if it doesn't, if you're not going to thrive in that borough, you shouldn't want to be there, and we shouldn't want that for you. We want you to find the place that fits your style.
Well, and so it was beautiful because we left the grape juice because of American culture. We don't want to offend our weaker brothers, and we don't want them to take the Lord's Supper with a bad conscience.
Just like we were when we were taking it with
grape juice. With grape juice.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if you'd put wine in front of me 10 years ago, or probably more like 15 years ago,
smacked it out of their hand.
I would have been like, this ain't the Lord's Supper.
Right.
So I had to study it out. We want a church of families that husbands leave, wives actually honor their
lead.
Okay,
just to clarify,
we want leading
we don't
men.
want husbands leaving.
Yeah,
only the husbands. We just want the husbands.
Just the
to
husbands. Wives who honor. You know how many churches women's ministry is? Let's get together and talk crap about our husbands.
It's barely.
That's a lot of ministries have women's ministries where they just absolutely run their. We should have a culture where women are holding women accountable. And teaching, Titus says, have the older women teach how to love their husbands and their children. And that means honoring them. But I also want to have a culture of men that hold each other accountable to being the type of men who can be honored. Men who do right. Men of accountability. And I'm going to say we haven't fully arrived here, but we are working on it.
We are.
We're working on it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that like building culture is not an easy thing.
No.
It is. And it's not overnight.
Generational.
Yeah.
A generational culture.
I do think that the women's has taken off.
I am so ecstatic with how well the women's ministry, because we
the Titus 2 model.
The Titus 2 model. We tore it down. Really, that was your puppy. Rebuilt it, and I am seeing a love between our women and a fellowship and accountability that they didn't have. Us men had it more than
they all came to teen camp to hang out.
They did.
They did.
Oh, the entire time. And I'm watching because culture takes time. We came from an independent fundamentalist culture. That's what we started as, reforming to the elders being just one of the sheep that are called amongst them. And that's a culture change.
From pastor to elder.
Yeah.
You mean,
Where pastors' wives from the group I came were this separate category, and they didn't really have friends in the church.
Right.
And I'm watching our wives thrive with friendships.
Yeah.
That's a culture that we built, and I want to see generational.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. They're now saying, hey, we need something for our boys.
Yep.
Our daughters have this and our young boys don't. And that's where it's like, okay, we've got to start building that out, because we started with the women because we had more of that who were willing and able to fulfill that role. And
Grace Point hadn't arrived, but
it's a work in progress.
We're thriving and we're growing. And as long as I can make an account every year that we're stronger than we were the year before.
Yep.
And so like, entrepreneurship you have on that list.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I never thought about until probably 2 or 3 years ago. Actually, it was a little bit longer, because it was R.C. Sproul's son, R.C. Sproul Jr., who did a series on family economics back before he got in trouble. So that's years ago. And it made me go, oh my soul, this is thoroughly biblical. Why aren't we building a culture that supports itself?
There's a great book called With Fire in Our Bones that talks about that.
There's a great book, With Fire in Our Bones. Where can you get that at?
I think you can get it on the oldforgepress.com.
Oldforgepress.com, where you can get
Amazon,
your reform.
if you
or Amazon.
really love
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
You wanna put money in a billionaire, just get it on
the oldforgepress.com.
Get it on the Old Forge.
Where's it cheaper?
The Old Forge Press.
Okay, that's where you should. That's where
and we have a partnership with the author where it is signed.
Yes. Yeah.
So
wait, actually signed
by the real author.
Wow. The real author.
Wow.
Yeah.
That what a deal.
All right. So household discipleship is one that we talk about a lot. We haven't arrived there. We've sort of built some framework, but it also has to go like into the actual homes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's hard as an elder to kind of you're not in their home.
No.
You know?
And we're having more and more families talking about catechizing. Yeah.
The more you can do that, the better it is, I think. Yeah. They love that.
Yeah.
It's like the Jim Alpert third, camera. Yeah.
Breaking the third wall.
Yeah, breaking the
I'm watching you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say about household discipleship? Sorry.
That's it.
Well, you didn't say anything. So.
No, I mean,
you said a lot about
we talk about, and it's funny, we go through phases.
Yeah.
Where we'll say, hey, are you doing dads this week? Open your bulletin. In fact, I'm going to be doing that this week. The sermon I'm dealing with is where they're bringing the children unto Christ, and they turn them away there in Matthew chapter 19. And Jesus says, don't turn the kids away. And it's 4 verses. And as I was looking at it Monday afternoon, it's like, okay, sermon prep. And I'm sitting there looking at, okay, should I pair this with something else? And the more I looked at it, I thought, no, there's enough in these 4 verses.
So did you get those 4 verses to the person who's reading it?
I did.
Oh, okay, good.
I wanted to send him a genealogy list.
Nice.
Just to mess with him, but I didn't do it. But I want a culture of moms and dads taking their Deuteronomy 6 responsibility for real.
Yep.
I'm to speak of him when I lay down, when I rise up, when I walk by the way. God should be so interjected into their very culture that there's nothing that the kids cannot glorify God in. If you're doing sports, you're doing it to the glory of God. You're doing your academics to the glory of God. When we're eating around this dinner table and mom kills it with a great casserole and our tongues leak with joy, that's to the glory of God. He made us to enjoy that together.
When mom kills it by microwaving those TV dinners.
And the TV dinner singes your tongue in such a way that you can't speak.
Leaky, Zoe said.
Hey, life's busy, man.
Yeah,
It is. I mean, my wife's a full-time junior high teacher, and there are days when it's like, what can we do? Like tonight was pizza night.
Yep.
It's just been such a busy week with the first week of school.
Yep.
So,
but talking about the food though, actually, that's something that we haven't gotten to where I think we all 3 would love for it to get to is like hospitality, celebration, feasting,
teaching the women hospitality, which men need to have it too.
Yeah. It looks different.
That's different.
Bringing the guys over, having a cigar, hanging out, whatever.
But what we do bi-weekly is a hospitality thing because we love being together. Mm-hmm. We make sure everything's taken care of.
We force them to enjoy being with us.
We force them to be,
I guess.
But
So yeah, there's work to be done, but ultimately what we're saying is that in order to build a borough, you need shared beliefs, you need shared values, you need a shared vision, but you also need shared standards.
And there can't be a diversity. We can't say, well,
within the vision and within the standards,
vision.
right? You can have diversity in thought and diversity in color and things like that.
Yeah,
but
we are going to be a male leadership led church. Right. We are going to be scripture oriented, scripture centered, sola scriptura through and through. We are going to be distinctly confessional. That's what we are. Mm-hmm. We are going to household orientation. We're going to be generationally minded. Mm-hmm. We're going to prize men and help men who want to seek after household economics.
Yeah.
We're going to prize education. These are things that our culture values.
Yeah.
And if you don't value that, you really don't fit in our culture.
Yeah.
And that's not to be mean.
It's not to say that you're not a valued person.
And it's not to say that you're not my brother and I don't love you. But it's saying, as far as this body, these legs, these arms, we're one body. This is the direction this body is walking.
Yeah, we're going to build.
We're going to build.
And you're dead to us.
Also, get out of here. Yeah. No, anything else? You didn't ask me to define anything, so I feel like this.
Well,
you
really kind of beat me to it doing the defining
Good.
the monoculture.
Good. That's what I wanted.
Just
all hearts and minds clear.
No. Well, actually, thinking about monoculture, I was and it not being necessarily like a racial or skin color ethnic thing. I was thinking about how I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago, and they're talking about like Harvard and Yale that you guys mentioned earlier, and how they pride themselves on diversity
now
because they have lots of different ethnicities teaching, but they're not really diverse in thought.
Right.
They only hire people who are very liberal people.
Correct.
And so while on the one hand claiming diversity, they've actually really created a monoculture.
Correct.
Oh yeah,
but
that's a good point.
But that is also what allows them to be rowing in the same direction because they all believe the same things. And when they say, this is the thing, when they say diversity, what they're talking about is skin color.
Yeah, right.
Which is why when I say monoculture, the first thing that people are going to think is, oh, he means only white people,
right? Yeah,
because he's white. And it's not at all what I mean, but they've co-opted that term to mean color.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be honest.
And of course, you might be getting ready to say the same thing.
The things we prize are Western Christian culture.
That's what I was going to say. So there is very real differences in cultures of skin color. Like, you think about like Hispanic culture. They when we talked about time earlier being like prompt or whatever, that's a very white Western
culture thing.
That's not something that they value. They value, getting there when it feel like it. They eat later. They stay up later. Like, so there are differences within ethnicities, and so we would acknowledge that and say absolutely
within the culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we know people in our church who they look Hispanic and they have Hispanic sounding names, but culturally they're not Hispanic at all.
Exactly. So there can be differences in standards, and there can be differences in things like that have to do with ethnicities, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying standards, vision, values, and shared beliefs.
100%. And there are some things that are dominant in some cultures that are antithetical to Christianity in general.
That's true too.
I would say the rap culture, sex, drugs. Now, the style of music I'm fine with, but the culture is one of.
But see, that's a hard one. That is a hard one to dissect because it is rap is very tied in with the black culture.
Yes.
So if you say that,
not as much anymore, because you can go to the sticks of Alabama, find a one-tooth hillbilly, and he will love rap.
He's listening to rap. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But historically, it is very tied in with that.
Yes.
So you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean.
You're laughing at my one-tooth hillbilly.
One-tooth hillbilly, because that's probably the most culturally insensitive thing that's been.
But I'm picking at my own side. White, so I'm allowed to do that one.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I lived in Alabama for 4 years.
Did you ever meet a one-tooth person?
Listen, the part of Alabama I was in, it was Birmingham, and it's not hardly. It's almost majority black now. So, as the further you get out of Birmingham, the more white and it is very, rural. Let's say. But I grew up in East Tennessee too, and in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains. So that's what I know. I'm all about it.
Who's this? That's my brother and my cousin.
That's Kentucky.
Yeah.
Or Indiana.
Well, I mean,
No, I'm just joking.
the point is this, is Grace
close
Point,
us out here because we're
Grace
going.
Point has a culture we're aiming at. It's a monoculture. We have to have that because, like, if you enter in any home, if you have children, your household has rules, it has an identity. I tell my children we're Tuckers. This is what we do. This is what we prize. My kids have been raised in a culture that prizes reading. Mm-hmm. And now they're young adults and they still, I mean, they don't all love reading, but they do prize education to a certain extent. They've been raised prizing the Lord. They've been told church is not an option. Mm-hmm. Dinner around the table is important. These are things that have made my family thrive. And I, as the dad, have told my kids, hey, at Point, get back in line. This is what we are. And
so Grace Point has the same thing.
Any family that's successful has that, and any church that is going to be successful will have that, and any borough of churches that come together will have to have that as well. They have to have a personality.
Yeah, personality. You got anything else, Robbie?
No, I think I'm all empty. I got nothing else.
Well, we have another podcast after this, so hopefully you got more.
Oh yeah, I'll reset. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. See you next time.
I already said all.